Hey, happy Friday. Thank you for joining us. Is your IT department overworked? Of course. Of course it is. Whose isn't, right? Is the budget getting out of control because of rising hardware costs? Today, one of our IT consultants is going to show you how your business can reduce hardware costs while making your team more productive with cloud technology. But before we get into that, I'd like to take a minute or two and let you know what Webcast Friday is and who we are. My name is Chris Armstrong, and I'm the multimedia manager at InterWorks. And we are a people-focused consulting, technology consulting agency based in Stillwater, Oklahoma, with offices all around the world, including Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Chicago, New York City, San Francisco, Christchurch, London, Germany, and the Netherlands. Webcast Fridays are 30-ish minute presentations that show off some of the more interesting work that we do, and our hope is that you'll find it informative and inspiring. Webcast Fridays happen every other Friday, and you can find out about future ones at our website, interworks.com/events. Today, Noor Abdeljawad, one of our fantastic IT consultants, is here to introduce you to cloud technology, specifically Microsoft's Office 365, which there are so many benefits to. It's kind of amazing. Less hardware, centrally managed, access to the latest and greatest applications automatically, and more that Noor is about to get into. We will have a time of Q&A at the end, so feel free to use that Q&A button in the meeting, and we'll get to those after it's over. So Noor, it's your show now, man.
Awesome, Chris, thanks for that. Thanks everyone for joining me today. I know it's Friday, so I'll definitely try to make this short and sweet so everyone can get on to their weekend and enjoy their plans. So I know Chris has touched base on this a little bit, but just kind of wanted to introduce myself and InterWorks just a little bit. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Noor Abdeljawad, and I'm a technology consultant for InterWorks, and I've been doing this for around 7 years or so now. And my main focus is really to work with businesses across different verticals, utilizing technology to not only solve problems for them in the industry, but to make that process both simple and enjoyable for everyone that is kind of taking place in that. So today I want to speak to you about the cloud, right? More specifically Office 365 and how having the right technology in place will allow your business to run smoother, become more efficient, and ultimately make your day simpler. So as Chris mentioned, InterWorks was founded in 1996 in Stillwater, Oklahoma. If you're not too familiar with that, Stillwater is a small college town. It's actually where I've got my undergrad at Oklahoma State University. So we actually still operate our headquarters from there, but we serve clients all across the United States in different forms and fashions. InterWorks aims to go above and beyond in delivering the best technical products and solutions, ranging from servers and storage to development and visualization. We equip ourselves with industry-leading partners to see a transformation of IT and technology, and ultimately that changes the way that you'll see things down the road as well. So when we talk about IT infrastructure, we can really focus on a few different points: continuity, networking, and transformation. And so for a business to be functional and continue to grow, it's essential for your network to stay up to date. And this allows you to really encounter the least possible issues and tend to them should they arise down the road. And having the right tools in place is going to allow you to do that. And for those tools to be functional, kind of underneath that layer, you're looking at your network structure. So we have to ensure that you have the network backbone to handle user load and facilitate the use of those tools. That's something that's definitely going to be necessary to keep you ahead of the game and certainly moving forward. Which brings me really to my next point of transformation. So as we sit here today talking about the cloud, 5 years ago, this wasn't on anyone's radar, but now you see messages about the cloud everywhere. Desktop as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, these are all things that are kind of on the horizon and many larger organizations kind of already instituted, maybe not so much in your small environments. One thing actually that remains constant though, ironically enough, is change. And with respect to technology, change these days is quicker than ever. And InterWorks wants to be there to answer your questions and help guide you along the way so that when these changes happen, they're barely noticeable as you transition to bigger and better things. So earlier we mentioned our industry-leading partners. So here are just a few of those that I'm kind of going to point out. So Sophos is a leading vendor for security. Notice at the bottom, Veeam, which is highly ranked in its class for data backup and recovery. VMware, who really does everything virtualization from a virtual desktop interface to your virtualized environment completely. And finally, in the forefront, we've got Microsoft, which is really our main focus for today. So when we talk about the cloud, I want to kind of share with you a couple of interesting facts about small and medium-sized businesses. So 37% of SMBs are adapted to the cloud already. 78% of SMBs will be fully operational by 2020. And you can take that to mean a part such as Office 365 being completely in the cloud, or perhaps many operations such as QuickBooks and desktop as a service and so on. And lastly, 56% of businesses prefer a single source for their IT infrastructure and technology needs. So while something like Office 365 definitely checks the box for collaboration tools, instant messaging, mail, applications, and I can probably keep going on this list. For everything else, InterWorks can really become your one-stop shop for IT services and products. So I want to kind of step back a little bit and talk about what the cloud is. There's a lot of ambiguity around that. Well, in reality, we're talking about a bunch of servers and storage, switching in a data center somewhere, right? So the cloud is essentially any service or product that's delivered to you with an invisible infrastructure. That's why you hear things about there being a private cloud and a public cloud. The cloud is really how the user interprets it. That's definitely a conversation we may have another time, maybe even on a different webcast Friday. So despite what we have at our organizations today, we all know, or at least have an idea of what we want, right? When we go to a dentist's office or we're sitting at a game in a ballpark, we want to be connected, have that wireless infrastructure. We want to have information always available to us and to be connected everywhere we go. From an IT management standpoint, we want continued value for our selections, whether that's a product or a service. And we definitely don't want to see a disruption in functionality and availability. So is it too much to always be online, connected, have a laptop and phone working perfectly to edit files and send email? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not too much. But maybe let's take a look at why some organizations aren't quite there yet. So how are some of these companies still handling mail and the user experience, really? Well, they have an on-premise Exchange server, several different types of software to collaborate and share files, whether that's chatting software or editing software. And in addition to these programs, they have multiple versions of each of those. And on top of that, we're dealing with licensing per machine. So essentially, we've taken the simple 25 user environment, and it's really blown up out of control. The strain of IT staff becomes way too big for them to handle, and they struggle to keep up with the end user side of things, let alone manage to devote any time to the backend infrastructure and maintenance to make sure that things are online and functional. And as I mentioned, with numerous devices per user, costs are driven that much higher. So how do we combat this? Well, Office 365 makes a significant impact in those scenarios, not only to you, but to your end users, your organization's functionality, and more importantly, its capability. By providing you with a single point of management and service, Office 365 reduces costs for in-house hardware. That's money that you can take and allocate somewhere else in the organization or even towards a different IT endeavor. Office 365 eliminates the problem with single points of failure in the event of a disaster. And so what I want to explain there is if we have a mail server sitting somewhere at the main office and we suddenly experience an internet outage or a server hiccup and that goes down, that's going to take down mail for the organization. Your main office, your branch offices, and even your remote users are no longer going to receive that email. We can get around that with Office 365 as it provides continued functionality across the board. Office 365 also simplifies issues with mixed and matched new and old software. Right? So if we have a user using an older version of a program and someone that's using a newer version, and perhaps we're working with the same program but a different functionality level, then we experience those issues. We end up calling on our IT staff to really resolve problems that are part of a bigger issue. So we can get around that with Office 365, providing you with the latest products and features and enabling all our users to work seamlessly across the board with the same version. And lastly, one of the most important things that I want to talk about is that delivered service. It's not just going to be reliable, but knowing that it's backed by Microsoft, Microsoft ensures stability with a 99.9% uptime. So Office 365, if you're familiar with it at all, it's really more than just email. And it refers to a suite of products that's offered by Microsoft, such as Azure, Teams, so on and so forth. There's really a lot more to it. But I think for our purposes today, we'll focus on these three Office 365 plans. The first one, Office 365 Business Essentials, it refers just to email service. So it provides you that always available and connected email service, in addition to a terabyte of cloud storage per user for OneDrive. And I'll get into that later about the functionality. Office 365 Business offers desktop applications, things you're already familiar with, such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and it gives you the latest version and functionality at any time. So in this point, you're no longer waiting for your finance department or accounting to come through and approve a purchase so that you can have the latest software. It's already included in something they've already taken care of quite a ways before. Office 365 Business Premium, essentially it's the best of both worlds as it combines these two, right? So it gives you the service stability, always available functionality of email service, coupled with the latest products and features for the programs I mentioned earlier. And it really keeps your environment efficient and free of issues. And then one main point that I kind of want to mention is, for instance, if you've dealt with a VP or a CEO, and you know they usually have a lot of devices available to them, whether it's a personal phone and a work phone, a tablet, their desktop computer, or even their laptop they're taking with them. So with a single license purchase through Office 365, that's actually going to cover all 5 of those devices. So there's a lot of thoughts that kind of correspond with migrating to Microsoft's cloud. So what does that journey look like? Whether you think you have too much data invested or reaching the cloud as it may be a little ambiguous, shot in the dark. Well, it's actually quite easy and we can help you get there. So there are 3 kind of technical terms that I want to cover throughout this, those being the cutover migration, the staged migration, and a hybrid migration. So the first is essentially a process of standing up the new environment in Microsoft's public cloud. And then after data and some other back-end work is done, you're going to go ahead and cut over directly to the cloud. It's kind of like you're going cold turkey, just without any of the drawbacks. This is generally reserved for small user environments, but it's kind of usable across the board with all versions of Exchange. A staged migration, on the other hand, is setting up that same environment, but instead of cutting over all at once, you're scheduling a certain number of users and their mailboxes to go to the cloud at a certain point in time. So this is definitely for larger organizations that have certain versions of Exchange. And lastly, at the bottom there, we've got a hybrid migration. And this is essentially when you have both your online environment and your on-prem environment running seamlessly together. And it's used to get to the cloud with minimal disruption, really. But there are some instances where you can use a hybrid migration for some special requirements. You generally need the latest versions of Exchange, 2010, 2013, and above, and for a fairly large environment. So I understand that some of these terms can be confusing and maybe you couldn't keep up with a lot of the versions there, but rest assured, when you engage InterWorks and taking the path to the cloud, we're really going to get the right solution for your company and your organization. So this time I'm actually I'd like to spend just a couple minutes in the Exchange Online portal, giving you a quick overview. I'm going to be using my credentials here in our actual live portal, so hopefully you don't see anything too crazy. All right, so the Exchange admin portal, when you first log in, there's a couple of things to take note of. First, it's kind of the status of your environment. For us, we've kind of have a directory sync going between our on-prem and our Exchange environments. You can see the status of that. You can also see your software that I was talking about. We go ahead and open a link to that. You can see what is available to you. Obviously, pick a language that you want to install. Hopefully, you guys speak English because I don't speak any other languages. And lastly, you can kind of get a version there. Going down to the support side, if you are experiencing an issue with Office 365, you can create a service request, kind of guide it along their way and see the latest status on there. Message center, I know it says 43 unplanned messages or unread messages, and these are actually good messages, right? Because Microsoft aims to continually improve its features, functionalities, and the product. So these are messages that are kind of related to, hey, what's new? You can actually see that here, new feature, Microsoft Forms, so on and so forth. Service health is in reference to Office 365's functionality. And usually these are just kind of, hey, here's a heads up, you might experience some issues with this, which is really good because it lets you know what might happen before it actually does happen. And with Microsoft's 99.9% uptime, you really aren't experiencing any issues there. On the left-hand side, you can see active users. These are, like I said, these are users in our organization. I'll pull myself up here just for ease of access, I guess. So you can see information like the username, what kind of licenses are assigned, roles, and so forth. From here, you can actually tweak user licenses. You'll obviously be able to in your environment. So if a user, for instance, no longer uses a certain program, you can do away with that so you're not wasting licenses or having to purchase new licenses. So you can add that from there. Groups are similar to that. If you're familiar with an Exchange environment, you have distribution groups and security groups with certain users in there. You can tweak those as necessary, adding users, removing users as you see fit. And lastly, we have our licenses and subscriptions. So going through here, you'll be able to see what it is you have purchased in your environment, what kind of licenses are available, how many you have remaining, and anything that's in default. So that's all I have for the admin portal side of things. I'm going to go ahead and jump into mail, and we'll take a look at the functionality in there. So if you've used any kind of Outlook program before or Windows Live Mail, this is fairly straightforward. This is where you can view your mailbox and all other items, folders, create and edit mail as necessary. A really handy feature of Office 365, it's really the mobility. So let's say that Chris and I are working on something, and before I send him out an email, I need to get some information from some other person on the marketing team. Well, I can pretty easily pull up Skype for Business here, and I can chat with whoever I need as necessary before I send out that email so that I'm providing Chris with the latest information that he needs. And I can do this all seamlessly through this one open web page. Similarly, you have your calendar at the bottom, as well as your people and your tasks list as well. Another really cool feature that I mentioned earlier was OneDrive. So again, I'm going to pull up Chris. I'm probably picking on him today, but you know, Chris and I work together all the time. So I'll pull up this these files over here, and let's say that Chris and I are working on some document, and I need to use it. So as you guys will actually see, if I try to pull up an Office program here, it's not installed on this machine. That's kind of the reason why I'm demoing on this. So let's say that I forgot my laptop. Well, again, the mobility feature with Office 365 is I can actually pull up this document in Office Online and actually make the necessary changes while we're independent of the program. So I don't know why Chris wants me to edit this document. So I can make the necessary changes that I need, and then when I'm done, I can just close out the tab. And editing in Word Online is really efficient, actually, because you don't have to worry about saving a problem, or if you get disconnected because you're at a hotel somewhere, it doesn't matter. Once you close the tab, since it saves in real time, those messages will be there the next time you open those up. So that's kind of demoed with a Word doc, which we're all really familiar with. And there's obviously an instance for Excel here where you can do the same. In addition to that, I can go through and I can share this document, so I can make sure that Chris gets that, pull him up since he's in my organization. And now Chris will have access to this document. He can pull it up if he forgot his laptop too. Chris, I think that's actually all that I have for our demo and kind of presentation side of things. Do we have any questions come up?
No questions so far. That was a fantastic demo. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no problem.
We're going to stop the recording now, and we'll be here to take questions. But if you want to see more of our stuff, you can go to our website, InterWorks.com. You can go to InterWorks.com/events and find more Webcast Fridays. And this recording will actually be up on our blog. Should be by the end of today. So if you missed it or you want to watch it again, it's going to be up. You can go back and replay it. So Noor, thanks for being on here, man. Again, we're going to take questions after I stop the recording. So if you have questions, hit that Q&A button at the bottom, and we'll get to those.
All right.